The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hey everyone, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Unplayable Podcast. A bit of a sobering day here at the Adelaide Oval. We've been watching training, we've been doing press conferences, but in light of the events at Bondi yesterday, as we record this, obviously our hearts go out to all the affected victims and the people of Bondi and the Jewish community in general. It's been a sad day for them, and our hearts go out to all of those people affected. Both the players who we spoke to today were asked about it, and their sympathies have gone out as well. So, our thoughts are with you and all affected.
Yeah, you feel a bit silly covering what we think is a big cricket series on a day as sad as this. Nathan Lyon had a lovely plaque commemorated in his honour today, particularly commemorating his performance in a game in 2014-15 that came right on the back of the Phil Hughes tragedy. Obviously, very different scale to those two, horrific kind of events. Two of the more horrific events I can kind of think of in my lifetime living in Australia. But we're back at Adelaide 10 years later and talking about something really tough. Yeah, I mean, all we can say is that we're thinking of the victims, we're thinking of the Jewish community in particular, and hopefully the cricket can, probably the first big national event since the tragedy, can bring some light to some people over the coming days.
Absolutely, well said. And with all that being said, we do have a great chat with Jake Weatherald. Coming up a bit later on, we sat with him at the bottom of the Sir Donald Bradman stand here, and he was really funny and insightful, and gave us a good insight into his personality, which a lot of listeners probably wouldn't have dealt with a lot. So it's a good one to hang around for. Lou, and you two go a long way back as well. I didn't bring it up with Jake at the time, but you've got a bit of a history with him.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure if Jake would want to kind of go back, but yeah, Jake and I used to play in the backyard against each other when I lived for 5 years in Darwin growing up as a kid. Jake obviously spent pretty much his entire childhood there before he moved to Adelaide for boarding school, or when he was about 15 or 16. I've got memories of getting absolutely spanked everywhere by Jake in one of his houses in Jingley in tropical Darwin. So we go way back, and I know his family and his mum in particular, mum and dad, but I probably know his mum a bit better, and she's just been really thrilled to see Jake's rise. And you mentioned like people won't know his personality yet. Like, this is one of the great things we get to do, is kind of unearth these different personalities that people have, and all of a sudden they go from being a bit of an anonymous Sheffield Shield cricketer to one of the most recognisable faces in the country, albeit not to the Adelaide Oval security staff. We maybe no spoilers on that one.
Yeah, that's a good call. But he also gave us an insight into that Steve Smith innings and battle with Jofra Archer. So definitely listen to that, because it's well worth a listen. Now we're back at the Adelaide Oval, Lou, as we touched on. Jake Weatherald played a lot of cricket here when he was playing for South Australia. And it's back to a day match. No longer, at least for this year, not going to be a day-night match here. And I think it's got a lot of the members and the locals pretty happy with that.
It seems like they... even though they like pink ball cricket, they're very, very good at hosting pink ball cricket. I think everyone thinks this is the best place for pink ball cricket. They're pretty happy to have red ball cricket back here. I mean, this is just a runaway success, this ground, the redevelopment they've done, the way they've kind of kept the old scoreboard, a bit of the old hill, the nets out the back, even the kind of plaques that they have on the Avenue of Honour that the Sacre have done up. This place is a 10 out of 10 for cricket grounds. And I think everyone thinks that universally. The pitch is also one of the best. It's probably the best example of a drop-in wicket. It has changed the characteristics of the Adelaide Oval. Damien Hoff kind of acknowledged as much when he spoke to media earlier today, basically saying that old flat Adelaide Oval, they basically tried to replicate that when they first got drop-in wickets here at Adelaide Oval, and they just kind of realised it was a different wicket, and they've kind of lent into a more bowler-friendly wicket. They now want to see 300 runs scored in a day and 10 wickets taken. So that's a really great aim. Probably should be a good aim for any curator, I would have thought, around the country. One of the interesting things that he also said was that He doesn't really change the preparation of the pitch for a red ball game versus a pink ball game. It's all pretty similar.
Right.
Probably the overriding thing I took out of hearing Damien Hoff speak was he really wants spin to play a big role, something that Nathan Lyon's pretty keen on as well.
Yeah, and they've been pretty close for a little while, I believe, those two, haven't they? Obviously, Nathan starting his career as a curator, so they'd have plenty of shared interests, I'm sure. A lot of the talk this week, Lou, has been that this pitch is going to suit England more than the first two. Is that a fair analysis, do you think?
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that Brendan McCullum brought up on Sunday. Look, I think the dimensions will suit them. I think what they had to do in Perth and Brisbane when Australia went to the short ball stuff with them is if they were going to attack them, it was going to have to be along the ground. In terms of those pull shots, you're trying to clear a 70, 80, sometimes 90 metre boundary with some of the bigger square dimensions at Perth and Brisbane. They're also very bouncy venues, which is kind of the opposite of what Bazball has thrived on in England, but also some lower, slower wickets in Pakistan. They want to test in Hyderabad in India last year, I think it was. So the bouncy, they played on the two bounciest wickets in Australia and got done over there. I don't think they were absolutely flogged in either of those test matches. I'd agree with what McCullum said in that regard. So yeah, it will suit them a little bit more in that respect. Maybe a bit more of a, not a docile pitch, but just maybe one that they're slightly more conditions that they're used to.
Okay. What changes are we going to see for Australia? We've got Pat Cummins coming back in. Nathan Lyon is, you would have to assume, going to come back in as well. And then there's also the question of Usman Khawaja, who's been training very diligently this week, trying to press his case and trying to say, get me back into that top order. Do we see three changes, or do we see maybe Australia settle for the two?
Yeah, you would think the most likely thing, Josh, is three changes. I think Australia have two decisions to make. Ultimately, it's probably three changes, but they sprang a surprise on us in Brisbane by picking Michael Nisa. So who's to say they're not cooking up some elaborate scheme behind the scenes at the moment? So let's walk through what we do know. Pat Cummins definitely comes back in.
Yep.
We've seen him bowling this week. We saw him bowling the other week in Brisbane and even in Perth. He has looked ready to go for some time, and now they're really finally going to pull the Band-Aid off with him. Nathan Lyon, they've basically guaranteed, comes back as well. So that's half of the bowling attack changing. So two guys come in, Cummins, Lyon. Then it's basically you can only pick one of, presuming Stark is fully fit, it's one of Boland, Nisa and Doggett. Which one of those three do you keep? We can delve into that a little bit. That's a really interesting discussion. That's a really interesting discussion from my perspective. Then the third change would be Usman Khawaja coming back into the team, probably at the expense of Josh Inglis. And the other decision around that is whether Usman Khawaja opens and relegates Travis Head back down to number 5.
Or stays in the middle order.
In the middle order.
Yeah.
And then if it is a case of, the first decision they would probably have to make is who are they going to open with? And if that's Travis and Jake, then is Usman Khawaja a better option at 5 than what Inglis is at 7, with Carey and Green bumping up or down.
Yeah.
We've heard Andrew McDonald say that they batted Inglis at 7, not so much as wanting to promote both Green and Carey, but they wanted to keep Green and Carey together at 5 and 6. They wanted those two to spend more time at the crease together, which I thought was a really interesting way of looking at things. So there's a bit to unpack there. Do you want to delve a bit more into a bit of all that?
Yeah, I guess let's look at the bowling permutations, I suppose you'd call it. Nisa came in surprised and got 5 wickets. Was fantastic. Doggett has had to do some tough bowling with the jobs that he's done, but you have to give him a pass from his first 2 tests without being outstanding. And then Scott Boland, we know what he can deliver. We know that he's got that MCG test around the corner, which he traditionally goes pretty well at. So there's definitely upside or pros to all 3 of those, but is it just going to be a case of Australia go with the more experienced man in Scott Boland?
Well, Scott Boland, you would say, would be the most deserving, albeit he was a bit off with his lengths to start the Perth test. He then bowled an unbelievable spell next time around. Yeah, Nisa probably shaded him figures-wise in Brisbane, but I thought Boland bowled some superb spells in that game too. Look, Doggett's an interesting one. He's been the guy that they've gone to with the short ball stuff a lot, and I reckon it's robbed him a little bit of his best characteristic, which is pitching the new ball up and swinging it.
Yeah.
He's a genuine swing bowler, and he has been given the chance every now and then to do it, but he didn't take the new ball in Perth, and he's bowled a lot of short stuff in Brisbane. So, but then Nisa was just irresistible when he got the ball. He's probably the slowest of those. He's definitely the slowest of those three. But he had more of a success bowling with Carey up to the stumps. And with the older ball, I reckon the knock on him was always, can he do it with an older ball? His new ball bowling wasn't actually that spectacular in Brisbane, so they might kind of go, well, we reckon we're going to get more out of Nisa with the new ball here. Do we play him? I think if the other thing to consider here is if you play Boland, you've bowled him not a huge amount of overs, but you have played him 3 tests in a row going into Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I think George Bailey said in the past it would be a brave selection panel leaving Scott Boland out at the MCG. So that's all for them to kind of consider over the next. They're probably speaking about it as we speak.
Yeah, and I was looking at the numbers. You say Boland hasn't bowled a lot, and it has felt like that, but he has bowled the second most overs in the whole series, only to Stark, and he's been irresistible with 18 wickets in 2 tests. So Boland has got the overs under his belt, and you do want him to play in Melbourne. So I think, there's an option there to potentially put him on ice for this one. But then you got Doggett as well, who I thought his best spell was that final one in Brisbane. He didn't get any wickets, but he was beating the bat and really causing some trouble because he wasn't told to, I guess, pitch it in his own half. Yeah, well, and this is obviously his new home ground as well.
Well, exactly, and he's had some success here, so there's real merit. It's going to be a hard decision. I mean, you just can't leave Pat Cummins out if he's fully fit. You think Pat can probably do a fair bit of the short ball donkey work, so can Stark. They're both 140 plus. So I personally would probably say it's probably out of Boland and Nisa.
Would you allow Pat to bowl the short stuff coming off a back injury like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's a good question. But like if he's playing in the game, you got to go all out with him.
Sure.
The other thing here is Cameron Green, I think, can do a little bit of that. But I also think Cameron Green's best stuff is when he's pitching the ball up and doing that kind of thing. So no, it's funny, like no one seems to like the short ball stuff. We're all kind of rolling like, oh crap, like we're gonna have to watch this short ball stuff again. The fact is, it does work. It does, it can slow scoring rates. It can kind of speed them up sometimes, but at the increasing the likelihood of taking wickets. The thing is, I guess the other thing is how we kind of mentioned off the top, will you be able to employ the short ball tactic for a long period of time, given the square boundaries are only 50, 60 metres long. And so that might play against Doggett, which is unfair. He's probably going there like, well, I don't want to bowl the short ball stuff anyway, so why should that count against me? But an interesting dilemma for the Aussies.
It's a good point. It was definitely in Cameron Green's mind, because he said in Brisbane with those huge pockets, he was trying to back away and hit it over the offside, whereas here he would be more prepared to take it on. So you'd imagine the England batters would be thinking along the same lines.
Well, this is why Travis Head averages close to 100 at this ground. Like he, when they have, that's been one of the things teams have tried to slow him down with. But you see, he'll play cut shots for 6 here, and so once he's rolling, like he can just tee balls into the members, and doesn't that kind of just set the place going? I thought, on Cameron Green, I thought that some of the criticism around, I mean, he said the dismissal in the first innings in Brisbane was slightly embarrassing, so he's reconsidering how he needs to play. But I thought it was a little bit unfair, given he, it wasn't a great shot, not defending it, but he had scored some runs backing away from Cast in that same method. There was only one fielder in front of square on the offside, I reckon it was, so they probably had to try to score in that period of the game under lights. And, Cast just kind of got in with, I was going to say the double bluff, but it's actually just a bluff, Josh, because a double bluff would have then been going back to a short. If he's expecting a bouncer, a bluff is a full ball, a double bluff is going back to the bouncer. Okay. People love saying double bluff when one of my bugbears. Cast bluffed him and it was a bit ugly, but Green will be an interesting watch to see how it goes for the rest of the series.
Yeah, Usman Khawaja, does he come back into the top of the order?
I think at the start of the series, that's what Australia thought their best team was. I think he comes back and I think he opens, and I think Travis goes back to the middle order. They made it clear that they thought the Travis opening thing was specifically for the pink ball game, and then they were forced into it in that second innings in Perth as well. So it's been a runaway success. I think if I was picking the team, I'd probably do it like that and put him back down to 5 where he's had most of his success.
Yeah. Nathan Lyon will come back into the team as we predict. He has only bowled 2 overs for the series so far, as he said today, and England haven't bowled that much more spin, in fact. So it's been very much a pace-dominated series to date. That should change here, as you said, the curator was expecting. There's going to be some really hot temperatures over the first few days here to bake that pitch and potentially bring in the role of the tweakers later in the game. Yeah,
potentially. I mean, we're looking at the thing now. It's under covers, and they were watering the kind of square before, and so that is a consideration for curators to make sure that there's enough moisture there to hold it together if there is really warm weather. So that could play against Lyon if the game accelerates quickly because it is juiced up, for want of a better term. I actually used that term when we were speaking to Hoff before, and I think he wouldn't use that term juiced up. It kind of sounds like you're putting steroids into the pitch or something. But if you are leaving some more moisture in there, that could make the seamers more dangerous and accelerate things early. There was the India test here last year where Lyon barely bowled as Australia just kind of rotated their 3 quicks through, a bit of a fast forward test. So that was a pink ball game. So everything kind of has a bit of a caveat next to it. You just hope like you don't see spin eradicated from games completely. And I think what Lyon said today, like he's basically saying that, we need to realise that even if you don't have a huge role in the first innings, you might have a big role in the second innings. So that's something for selectors to consider. I think we have had exciting Test cricket in recent years with seam-friendly wickets. It's probably come at the expense of some longer spells. You think of the one that he's just had the plaque unveiled for, that 12-wicket performance against India in 14-15. I think 5 of his wickets came in the final session of the game. And even though it is a drop-in, spin all of a sudden became harder to play later in the match. So, ideally that's what curators, I think, should be striving for. And, I think we all want to see spin play a bit of a role. Yeah,
I think he bowled pretty much unchanged from one end for most of that final day. As India were chasing a pretty big total. Those highlights, of course, on cricket.com.au. So check him out if you need a refresher. England have made only one change to their team. They haven't panicked. They've kept the faith of their top 7. No changes there. Gus Atkinson comes out. He's taken 3 wickets at an average of over 70 so far this series. So hasn't quite had the impact that he would have hoped. Josh Tongue comes in. He's a fast, can be at times wayward bowler, but as we saw in that India series, can produce unplayable deliveries. So if there's not much going on, maybe he's the one to spark things for England.
Yeah, it's interesting. Atkinson's a disappointment, going out of the team after 2 tests. He was the guy, I probably said on this podcast, he was the guy I really thought would be successful out here. I've seen glimpses of it. He took 2 wickets in that 4th innings in Brisbane. He looked like their best bowler there. I just think they haven't quite figured out. There's a bit of a knowledge gap in, speaking to a few people. It sounds like they just feel like there's a knowledge gap in that England bowling department. Stokes aside, these guys have in some instances played a bit of Test cricket. Joffre's been around for a while. Carter's been around for a while. Atkinson's been injured but played a few Tests. But there's just not like a real sense of like everyone knowing their role. They haven't played...
nothing here.
Nothing here. And they just haven't played much Test cricket together in general. Archer and Wood, I think, had only played once together before this series. Atkinson and Archer might have only just played together for the first... Well, they might not have played any Tests. Carse and Archer, I think, played against India earlier this year. So Tongue's another one. At least he has played some Ashes cricket going back to 2023. Yep. He had a weird Test. I can't remember which one it was against India earlier this year, where exactly what you were talking about before, like wayward, missing the pitch completely.
5 wides, and
then bowl. He ended up with 3 for plenty. But the guys he got out were absolutely unbelievable dismissals. So the guy who bowls around the wicket a lot to left-handers, despite swinging it back in to left-handers, I've always kind of thought, why don't you try and come over, because you're more chance of getting an LBW straightening down the line. That's just kind of a random tidbit that I noted when watching a lot of those that England-India series earlier this year. But The other one with them is like Jax stays in the team over Bashir.
I knew you were going to bring up Shell Bashir.
Yeah, well, just like we were watching them in the nets the other day, and Jax genuinely looks like their best spin bowler. Like I think that's it'd be interesting to know what's going on behind the scenes with Bashir, because he's been probably banged on about it on this podcast, but he's been groomed for this tour for a long time. The high release point, the answer to Nathan Lyon, and he hasn't been cited. And from what we're kind of seeing in the nets, it's not. I don't know if it's confidence has kind of left him, but he doesn't look like he's demanding selection. Whereas Jax, I really like. He's putting some nice energy on the ball. His line's really good. I thought he bowled really well in Brisbane. And then the other one is Bethel, who looks like he's bowled a lot in T20 cricket, and Test cricket bowling is a bit of a way off him. Obviously, batting is his primary skill. So Jax gets a nod here again. I think they're probably playing their best spinner. From the little I've seen in the nets.
And strengthens that tail up quite a bit too, doesn't it? So he was pretty impressive in Brisbane with the bat. The top 7 for England, as we said, they have been given the go-ahead to do it all again. Harry Brooks said that he made some mistakes in the first 2 tests and has decided to rein it in. And Ben Stokes has said they want to absorb more pressure. So all of a sudden, this Bazball helter-skelter stuff that we had been talked about had been talked about for so many years has now all of a sudden been curbed, and we're getting a very different approach from England going forward. Yeah,
well, it's an interesting one. Like I think that, you think about the language we heard in 2023. Brooke was talking about bashing Nathan Lyon out of the attack and hitting 4s and 6s off him, and when asked a very similar question today, it was, we want to attack him where possible, but we might have to kind of rotate the strike a bit more off him. He's now a leader in this team. He's the vice captain of the side, and so he's not just a guy who needs to come in and whack him from number 5. Like there is a sense that this tour was about Bazball being kind of grown up, and like Brendan McCullum doesn't love the term Bazball because he thinks it's reductive, and maybe that's fair enough as well. But on the evidence of what we've seen, it's been a confused approach from batters. It has looked like they have been encouraged to bat a certain way that's worked in England, and why wouldn't they continue to try that in Australia? Like that's been what's been not only successful in England, but encouraged by Stokes and McCullum. All of a sudden, after that didn't work through the first 3.5 innings, Stokes and Jax bat out that full afternoon session in Brisbane. They didn't really move the game at all. I think in hindsight, that was probably a time when England probably should have attacked. They were behind in the game. That was the best time for batting. They probably need to roll the dice and go after Australia. So, and then Stokes comes out and says, my dressing room's no place for weak men. It kind of, he didn't say this, but it kind of implies that how they had gone out the previous evening, and maybe even in the first innings and going back to Perth, that was a weak. That was kind of weakness from the England team. I'd be confused if I was an England batter in that dressing room. Like, you've kind of told us to bat in a certain way. Yes, there's got to be responsibility and times to know when to attack, but they've been encouraging them to play a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's weak if you do that, and it's not working. So they really need to work out exactly what they want to do, because I think ultimately if they try to do something other than what they've done for the last 3 years, they'd be trying to learning on the fly. Like it's a completely different way of going about it. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out this week.
Win the toss here, Lou, and bat?
Yeah, you'd think so. Hot first few days. It's going to be up around 38, 39 degrees, I think, day 1, 2. I'd want to be batting the bulk of that time. If you can get through the early moisture, it could be cash-in times for the batters. 8 mil of grass on the thing at the moment. Okay. Hoff says he might shave a bit of that off, depending on where they get to.
So is 8 mil more or less than we normally see?
I reckon that's around the ballpark of what we have. Maybe they've had a little bit more in the past when they thought the pink ball might need a little bit more. They talk, this is where I start to get a bit confused, is they talk not so much about the length of grass, but the thatchiness of grass. Hoff today was talking about the difference between Santa Ana grass and Legends grass, and that's when he completely lost me.
Yeah. This is curator Damien Hoff, not Josh Hazelwood, known as Hoff, by the way, because that does get confusing.
Good point. That was Damien Hoff. Yeah, not Josh Hoffelwood. He lost me a little bit on the grass stuff, but I think there'll be some grass on the wicket, and how much we'll just have to wait and see.
As always, the Unplayable Podcast will be doing daily recaps of every day's play of this Ashes series, Adelaide included. So make sure you're subscribed and you get those recaps right into your feed, basically right after stumps. So definitely worth checking out. And now it's time to jump into our chat with Jake Weatherald. All right, what a pleasure to be joined at the Adelaide Oval by Jake Weatherald, Australia's Test opener. Jake, coming back home in a way for you here. How's it been this week for you and the build-up to a Test match at the Adelaide Oval?
Yeah, it's been pretty similar to what I would if I was back for a Shield game playing for South Australia, spending a lot of time at home, playing PlayStation, spending time with my wife, my dogs, and just going to cafes and relaxing, to be fair. Probably trying to keep a bit more of a lower profile at the moment. Obviously spent a lot of time in Tassie, so coming back, I try to make those trips pretty quiet so I can spend time with my wife. But obviously being back, you can't hide the fact you're back here for a Test match. So just try not to be too busy with catching up with people, because it'd be a bit endless sort of thing. So
what's the PlayStation go to at the minute then?
I just play like Quest games, a bit of Witcher, stuff that's currently on TV at the moment. And then, my wife bought me a couple of games to get into, which was cool. So they keep me occupied and probably away from cricket, which is good.
Do you kind of need that, Jake? Like, do you need a release away from cricket? Because I imagine like the last few weeks would have been pretty intense from a cricket point of view, right?
Yeah, it was an absolute meltdown. I got to Brisbane, PlayStation broke, sorted it out.
This is a PlayStation that goes with you on the road.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so I normally travel with it. It broke. I couldn't get the disc out. Had an absolute mare. Went to JB Hi-Fi, tried to sort it out. Couldn't get it done. So last week was an absolute battle, to be fair. And we're staying with the Barmy Army as well too. So I normally go out for a run or go do something, go for a swim or something. Didn't really have that many opportunities to do that because they were either in the pool, the Barmy Army, or go downstairs. So ended up just spending a lot of time just twiddling my thumbs, just meditating in the end, and watching some TV. That was about it, really.
Right.
Yeah, so better now. So
the Barmy Army, I imagine, would recognise you as Australia's Test opener. Did like the employee at JB Hi-Fi kind of go, hey, you're the bloke who opens a batting for Australia?
No, it didn't seem like he had much interest in sport, to be fair. He had a lot more interest in the games I was choosing, which was cool. So we sort of got lost on that a little bit. But yeah, even the Barmy Army, I don't think really recognised me that much. And they probably think I'm too low fish sort of thing to even talk to, small fry sort of thing. So they don't bother saying much to me until Smudge and stuff walk in, when then they get a bit vocal. So.
And we're back in Adelaide, of course. Adelaide Oval. Is this your favourite ground in the world? You've got a pretty good first-class record here, and you've played a lot here.
It's a great place to play. It provides different challenges, which is cool. But in terms of actually playing here, Big Bash games are amazing to play out with the crowd and stuff like that. So hopefully it sort of emulates that a little bit. I really enjoy being here when that crowd's buzzing around, especially people on the hill there. They support really well. I love batting out here. It's one of those places where you just feel somewhat at home and somewhere common, which is good. Obviously, when I play at Bell Reeve and I play there a lot, it's probably the two grounds I probably do the best at because I play so much there, both these two grounds. So, I'm excited to get back here and walk out. I'm not sure what it'll be like as a Test match sort of thing. So.
And even though you wear green now for the state, you're confident the crowd here are going to get behind you as a local boy?
I'm pretty sure they will, yeah. I'm pretty sure they will. I've got plenty of mates here, but also I think the people in South Australia they've sort of claimed me as South Australian as soon as I made the Test team, so which is cool. I played most of my cricket here. I grew up, I learned all my craft here, did all the hard yards when I was playing for South Australia, so I think, that's probably fair enough. And, I love being back here. I still live here, so in times, and my wife still lives here, so still call this place home, so yeah.
You've got a good look at the Test skipper Pat Cummins in those nets. A, how spicy are those training wickets, and B, how good does Patty look?
He looks really good. You sort of don't. I haven't played much first class cricket against him, and he's only played under 10 games of first class cricket. Played a lot of Test cricket. So you just watch him from afar, but to see how he goes about it, see how he bowls on, and he's probably holding back a little bit as well too, trying not to make the batters feel too uncomfortable. He bowled beautifully. The first session I had in Perth, probably ramped it up there, made me feel pretty silly. and didn't really feel that ready after that. And then this session he bowled quite well, and he just showed he can bring it back a lot and bring his skills back in, which is so impressive. So I think having him back in the team is going to be an amazing thing for us, and provides a bit more strength to the bowling attack, even though they're going really well at the moment. But also, I think having him back in general is just going to be big buzz for the team. Obviously, another senior guy who's played 70 odd Test matches and taken so many wickets. It's cool. So
I imagine we're not the first people to ask you about your view of the Jofra versus Smith kind of showdown on that fourth evening at the Gabba. That must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I wanted to get amongst it. Couldn't hear anything. I sort of went down there to try to listen, but it was pretty cool. You watch a guy like Jofra, who's obviously had so much talked about him, how good he is, and he is very good. And then you got a guy like Steve Smith, who's obviously the best player I've ever seen by a mile, batting. And the way he went about it was just the opposite of how I'd think about cricket. I'd be, as I probably showed, I was just trying to get behind it and keep the ball out, where he was thinking about how can I finish this game off and get the run. So it was pretty impressive to see that against a guy that was so high class. And, I was just lucky to see the ball when he was just going out there smacking them. So the contest just shows that how much it means to everyone. And we probably hadn't had that yet out in the middle. It's been a very much just get the job done. You listen to the crowd, because the crowd does most of the talking. So, if you go up to say someone, you can't even hear anyone anyway. So that was the first time I could actually hear something going on, and it was pretty cool to be a part of. So
we could see Steve's kind of eyes go into a different mode.
He was frothing in the mouth.
It was like a competitive beast. Did you feel that kind of activate inside you too?
No, I'm a pretty competitive person in general, and that's probably what I probably rely on when I'm batting to get me through. But him, he's pretty relaxed, to be fair, and then suddenly he just goes into this mode of really compete, and he sort of it just changed completely, which was cool. And then at the end of the game, obviously he was so pumped up and yelling things out and stuff like that. And that was a cool experience. I think that was something that'll go on my wall, me walking off with Steve Smith. So it was pretty cool.
And was that the first time you've batted with him as well? Because I'm not sure if you played much with him at all.
No, not at all. I barely played against him, with him. So that was an amazing experience. I just wish it went for longer, to be fair with you. I didn't really see him in Test cricket, really. I saw him playing, the way he does, being so adaptable. But, it'd be cool to be able to spend a lot of time with him out in the middle. And I think we're probably a little bit different in the way we operate. He's probably a little bit more intense with his routines and stuff like that. And I'm probably trying to be pretty relaxed because I'm already nervous enough. So for me, it was just trying to see what I can do and say to him without setting him off, because he's can be pretty sensitive with that sort of stuff. So for me, it was just don't say anything stupid, just stay out of his way. And he moved me a little bit out of my way, because I'd normally stand quite close to the bowlers to sort of watch their action as they're running in. And he's like, you stand too close, you've got to stand wider. Even now, I've stuffed up here. Doesn't want to get picked next game. So so I'm all over him at the moment, just to make sure I'm staying out of his way.
Was there any temptation to wear the under eye patches like he donned in
I
Brisbane?
just probably don't have enough aura yet, to be fair. Probably don't have enough respect from the cricket community to walk out and do that. He's averaging 55 in Test cricket and made 30 Test hundreds. I think he can do what he wants. And again, half the things he does, he probably doesn't need to do it, but it makes him up and about. So that's all that matters.
I saw Trav compared you a little bit to Stephen Marnus in terms of the way you think about the game and how intense potentially you are around the game. Do you kind of agree with that, having kind of gotten to know those guys over the last few weeks?
Probably a little bit with the training point of view. Yeah, we spend a lot of time training, and we probably cross our I's and dot a lot of T's sort of thing, and we do all that sort of stuff. And I guess me and Marnus to a little bit to a degree, but I probably don't think about it as much in terms of the actual technicalities and stuff like that. Well, I try not to anyway. If I want to be the best version of myself, I try to be pretty. I try to train hard, but then after that, I just try to trust that everything's going to be okay. And but Smudge has obviously got all his gear going on. Obviously the eye patch things. He prepares incredibly different to what I've seen a lot of cricketer, probably more pedantic than I've seen a lot of other people, and the way, his weight of his bats, his handles, all that sort of stuff. For me, I probably was a little bit like that, but I've gone more towards, just trusting it's going to be enough and all that sort of stuff. And I think Marn's sort of similar to that in a degree, and he's someone I can sort of read off a little bit too. If I'm hitting more than Marn or Smithy, I'm probably going a bit over the top. So right. I sort of try to just, I use them as gauges, but at the same time, just try to get what I need in done. And but yeah, we sort of have a different methods, but we still train a lot, I guess. Yeah.
And what about just your battle with Jofra in this series so far? We were looking back at even footage of you playing in the BBL 07 final. I think where you made that 100.
Yeah.
You know, you got a good piece of him in that game a fair while ago now.
Yeah.
Just what was he like then to face, and what have you seen from him this series so far?
I guess it's like perception, isn't it? It's just sort of what your perception of him when he came in. I didn't know much about him when he played in the BBL, so you just see him reacting, and BBL cricket sort of allows you to get out doing dumb things, you know. So I didn't really care. So I sort of just walked off, and I just walked into those games thinking I'm just going to try to smack him. And then obviously when you play a test match, you set up for a day. You set up for how can I put this guy through 3 or 4 spells. And I got a pretty good wake up call that first innings about what was going on and how much different it is to play someone of his quality and his pace. I learned pretty quickly, and then obviously the next innings, similar thing happened again, kind of, but I was a lot happier with the way I felt about batting against him. He's someone that's obviously high class, and he's going to bowl good balls, and I've got to accept that as an opener and not let that, you know, make me feel as though that I'm not good enough to compete, because, you know, for 90% of it I'm competing well. So yeah.
I like, it's interesting you say it's a wake up call that first innings, because we were looking at it and he's gone, first one's gone away. Yeah. And you would have been going, oh yeah, I've seen that on TV. Jofra moves them away from the lefties, and then he's just brought one back in from nowhere. Yeah. Surely that was a surprise. Yeah,
it was a surprise, definitely. That first ball nipped a bit, and I was just like, oh, it's just going to smash away here at a good length, and I'm just going to be, it's going to go back to, you know, good first class batting. It's a bit faster, but it's going to go back to good first class batting and where you're comfortable, and you're just going to have to leave well, and my strength's hitting off my pad, so a bit like. And then he goes full, which you don't really get in first-class cricket. A lot of blokes are just so used to... And when you've got pace like him, you probably can afford to miss, or not miss, but, you know, target the pads a bit more, and you might get rewarded. So, for me, that was a bit of a learning curve with people with that pace, just to be a bit more cautious around, you know, what they can do. And so, yeah, I've just haven't really experienced that, so that was good.
And Steve and Jofra had a bit to say at the end of Brisbane, and it seemed like you were trying to get involved a bit there as well. Do you want to share what was sort of going on?
No, well, from my end, it was just, they were just talking about, obviously, you know, me kicking them off Jofra, which was probably fair enough. It sort of just stemmed after the review. I sort of just made a comment after that, saying if waste a review, that was always going down leg. Which I didn't feel too confident about when they reviewed it. I was like, oh, no, I've done it again here. But again, if I make runs and kick it, eventually it's all right, as long as I'm making runs. But I think from my end, it was like, I was trying to back up Stephen as much as I can, and not trying to make myself too much of a fool. But it seemed like they were pretty intent with each other, and I think Joff just laughed at me when I said something, so it was good.
The only other question I've got on that battle was that hand signal that Steve did that a few people have been asking about. Do you know what the meaning behind that is?
I don't necessarily know where it originated from. I know a lot of blokes from South Australia use it. It's sort of like, I don't even know exactly what it is, but a lot of the boys do it. I think it's to go rest. It means rest, I think. And I don't quite be on it, but I could be making myself a fool here, but I think it just means rest.
As in, like,
have a rest
to the bowler,
mate.
Yeah, have a spell, basically. Yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it. And I know a lot of the Saka boys do it. And then because I know Daniel Drew, who was at the 12th man stuff, he was there. He's sort of the guy that does it quite a lot. And he was sort of couldn't believe it happened, sort of thing. So. It was a pretty cool experience, I think, for Drewy. I don't know exactly where it originated from. It could be somewhere else, but a lot of the Saka boys use it. So.
Maybe he's claiming it.
Yeah, I think he has, yeah.
So it'd be like if a bowler's sledging you, rather than going back at him, you just give
have
it
a
this
rest,
one.
Yeah. Even though he'd have no idea what that means. Yeah, exactly right.
We could talk about that for hours with you, I reckon. But just around, we kind of touched on it a bit with your preparation and how you're different to some of the others. Like I'm interested, Jake, just in you've gone from playing 10 years of first class cricket, and you get used to a certain way of doing things, a certain way of preparing, a certain level of scrutiny. All of a sudden, more scrutiny in Test cricket. You've got more resources in Test cricket, like dog flingers and probably more staff and whatever. Like, how have you maintained your preparation in amongst all that, including like your visualization stuff that you do before games?
It's been interesting. I think it's probably a credit to the coaching staff. When I came in, they said, obviously we've been picked in this squad because we like the way you're going about first class cricket at the moment. You've made runs. We like the way you prepare. Just do the exact same thing. And it's never going to be exactly the same. Obviously, you have to do a lot more different things off field, obviously media and other stuff that you need to do, appearances and stuff like that. But at the same time, when I get to training, the resources are just there for you to... I just love facing bowlers. So for me, it's all about getting in and facing bowlers, and I've been lucky that no one else likes facing me either. So it's just me and Marn at the moment. We're called the net batters for the bowlers. So we sort of get sacrificed to see how the wickets are like, and then go in there and see what happens. But then, obviously you get the bowlers that come in and bowl to you, which is awesome, which is great. So I get to face as many bowlers as possible. I probably don't get as much as that in state cricket because you get the bowlers come in, they're their workloads and they're done. And you've got a quick turnaround between each Shield game. So for me, that's probably why I use a lot of visualisation, but I just sort of naturally wanted to use that. I haven't been back at Adelaide Oval for a while, so I'll use that as a way of getting accustomed to what I see. And even just going through some game plans and stuff like that, I might want to incorporate. Nothing too extravagant by any stretch of the imagination, but just getting aware of my situation. So when I walk out there, everything feels familiar again. But yeah, from a training point of view, it's just basically what I do at state training. So,
is it hard doing the visualization out in the middle when you do it before a Shield game? You've got the oval to yourself, more or less.
Yeah.
Here, you've got two broadcasters, you've got people everywhere. Have you kind of been interrupted at points?
Yeah, definitely. I got told to get off the wicket for a broadcast, which was a strange scenario. I was like, are you serious? Like, this is my prep here. And he's like, no, you need to get off. And I was like, oh, great. So I walked off. So that's already been stuffed up once. And like standing on the wicket, everyone's a bit particular with it. Sometimes you get curators that are fine with it. He is normally very good. The whacker was good. Went to the Gabba. Suddenly, out of nowhere, one of the umpires came blaring over and told me to get off. And so those little things like a little bit different because in state training or state games, you can just do whatever you want, sort of thing. But yeah, that's probably a different thing. And obviously, when you're doing it before a day of a game, you've got all these greats walking around. I find that pretty daunting because I'm visualising and I'm just thinking, what are they thinking of me right now? Like, do they think I'm useless? Do they reckon my technique's useless? I try not to think about that, but when you got Matthew Hayden and JL and stuff like that, and just walking around Ricky Ponting, watching your shadow bat, it's a bit daunting. So I try to keep that out and just try to keep it consistent. But yeah, I'd lie if I said I don't think about it.
Well, Haydos was a master at that. He would often go and sit on the pitch barefoot and visualise making runs out there. So maybe kindred spirits, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. Might have some more respect for me. But no, I think he's... I haven't had much to do with Haydos, so one day hopefully we'll get a good chat with him about it.
And has anything else really surprised you from the step up from Shield to Test? Because it seems like a pretty stark contrast between the level of interest between the two sort of teams, I suppose.
I don't think anything surprised me as such. I was aware that there was a lot more stuff going to happen, and obviously the emotion around Test cricket and the emotion from the supporters, obviously everyone coming up to you and saying good luck and stuff like that. I've experienced from an Australian point of view, which is pretty. It's pretty nice, to be fair. You walk around and everyone's sort of pumping you up, sort of thing. And I probably prepared quite well. Obviously, when you play, I've talked to a lot of people about the preparation for Test cricket and what it's going to be like. And to be fair, I've faced challenges out in the middle in terms of the people I'm facing and the team I'm playing. It's obviously high quality, but in terms of the other stuff, I've been very lucky that the information I've gathered, I can stay away from certain things, and it might be social media, or it might be, being quite insular, not doing too many things outside of cricket, and making sure that I'm doing stuff for myself. So when I come to the game, it just feels like another game. But in the day, I've only played 2 Test matches, so from this point, it's been good fun, and we've won, so that sort of helps. And I've only played 6 days worth of cricket, so I'm sure there'll be a lot more challenges that come. But for now, it's been just enjoyable. But I'm sure there'll be some challenges.
I'm sure one of the most enjoyable parts has been being at the other end while Travis Head has been going ballistic. What is it like to be at the other end when Head's on a heater like that?
Yeah, it's cool. You take it for granted a little bit how good he is because of the way he is. He's so different to Smithy and Marnus and these guys you revere, and you see them watch them train. You're like, you can see why they're so good. But then you watch Heady and you think, I don't know why he's so good. Like, you can't really put your finger on it. But then you walk out and you bat with him, and you just see that someone is just immensely confident in what he's doing, and he's obviously got the skill to back it up. And I probably take more from that than I do from the other guys, to be fair, because he doesn't overcomplicate it. He walks out there, and he's obviously worked hard at his game and his mindset to be in that position. But to walk out and do what he did in Perth, it just shows that someone who's supremely confident in his ability, but also got an amazing amount of skill that can back it up. So I think it's a credit to also the coaching staff and the people around him that allow him to go do that stuff. Obviously, Paddy and Ron and Smudge have created an environment where he can feel confident in doing that, and not let the impact of potentially him getting out early be the bearer of the result, which is great for him because I think he just plays better when he's like that. And I've never seen anything better than that. I've seen obviously some one-day stuff, but to do it in a red ball game against the high-quality stuff they've got, and he's elevating himself to become one of the greatest Australian cricketers ever. So yeah, it's pretty amazing just to be at the other end for somewhat of a time was cool.
What about even the other gear to it, like that first innings in Brisbane where he faced a lot of Jofra Archer early on? Was that kind of something that he said, I'm going to kind of shield you a little bit from him? And like, is that kind of something that maybe doesn't get acknowledged? We know how well he hits boundaries, but he kind of got in behind it for a bit there.
Yeah, he did. I think it just shows how adaptable he is. I don't think we actively talked about it. And that's the thing when you open the batting, you sort of get stuck down some ends. Yep. We didn't talk about it, but yeah, like, credit to him, he did an amazing job getting through probably Jofra's hardest spell when he bowls. When he's probably bowling his fastest, and he's got amazing skills compared to a lot of people I've faced in cricket. He's got the ability to bowl fast, but also nip it both ways. So to be able to get through that little period shows, and it sort of sets up the rest of the game for everyone else, and obviously set the game up nicely for me. So I don't think Hetty was happy about it, but he did it nonetheless. So I think he just got a bit of a taste of what opening the batting was like. Sometimes you get stuck down one end because there's nothing to score off, and you sort of have to absorb. I think we're like 4 overs and score a run or something, and then we sort of got moving then. I said it's going to get moving, but yeah, he sort of did most of the brunt work, which was nice.
Might have been like you kind of saying, oh, this is what quick singles for, mate.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is, rotating the strike, but he's obviously not all about that, and I'm probably not either, so it depends if we open together again, but we probably complement each other well in certain aspects. Probably running between the wickets, probably not the greatest aspect we've got between each other.
You've known Trav for a long time. Has he changed much over the years?
No, he's not really changed at all. He just talks lots. He's obviously a lot richer now, which hasn't changed much apart from his fashion. His fashion's got worse and worse. We call him a cashed up bogan at the moment, because if it's something nice in the store, he would just go towards the brands, pick them all out. And I respect a lot of Hetty and what he does because he's not changed much in his lifestyle. He's always up for a talk with anyone. He has a laugh. He enjoys being out there, and he's been a calming influence for me when I've walked in the change rooms. I was like, what is it going to be like? But he was the same as he was when he played state cricket, and that was quite a long time ago. I played with him nearly 4 years ago. So it shows that like someone who's become so popular in Australian cricket, but also so good in Australian cricket, he's a very humble guy. And I went around to his house a couple of days ago with a few guys, and it just shows like he's so accommodating to everyone, wants everyone to have a good time. And yeah, he's an unsung hero, I think, within our team that creates a lot of relaxed vibes that probably a lot of people feed off. And even, I think Smudge and all that feed off as quite well too, because we're not all just intense, and he just provides a different way of going about it, which is cool.
What's the view like from his pool?
Pretty nice. Yeah, it's pretty nice. He's done pretty well for himself, which he deserves to. Obviously, come over from Elizabeth and Gawler and stuff like that. So he's moved up in life, but I think he still hangs out with all his mates from the north, and so it shows that he's a guy that just loves having mates and enjoying people's company, and which is cool. But his house is very nice. So.
It's funny, and I feel like you probably spoke a little bit about this in Perth. Around the whole winter was about who was going to open the batting with Usman Khawaja. You got picked to do that. Now maybe after 2 tests you might get a go at it. Yeah. What are your kind of thoughts on whether that successful partnership you've had with Trav in 3 innings potentially might get broken up this week?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I was walking and the security guard said, I hope you get picked this week. And I was like, hopefully I do too. And he goes, yeah, it's going to be borderline, I think, mate, borderline. So I was like, oh, yeah, fair enough, which is fair enough. Obviously Aussie's available, and he's obviously the great cricketer he is. So, but I think... Did
he think you were Aussie?
No, there's a chance. There's a world. But no, he said Jake.
Right, okay.
But I think that was a bit of like just trying to cheer me on sort of thing. But yeah,
like the honesty.
Yeah, like the honesty though. I was a bit rattled after that. I was like, yeah, my chance not to play this week. But at the same time, like Aussie is coming back, and I think it's actually underrated how good he is, and the fact that I've only played 2 test matches and I've done okay. Like I'm not made hundreds or anything. So to say that it's out of him or Hetty to open, it's a bit ridiculous, because I think he's obviously got the priorities, been there for so long, done so well. So I think it's just it's probably a little bit of propaganda around him not playing, because I think he's a good chance of playing. So and if he does, I'm sure he'll do a great job. I think for me, if I do get to open with him, it'll be different. But at the same time, probably similar to what Heady said. What Heady did, he absorbed a lot, and that's something that Aussie does really well. He does rotate the strike really well, and he's a very calm, collected character, and he absorbs pressure probably better than most cricketers I've ever seen. So I think, from my point of view, I think that'd be great to bat with if I get the opportunity to. And it's just adapting to it and trying to get a different flow on. So,
would you feel more pressure to bat more aggressively if Usman? Yes, you said that he does absorb the pressure really well. We know Trav is a guy who goes after it. Would you feel any different about how you go about your batting?
Not really, to be fair. I don't really ever think about scoring at all. So it's just a natural thing that happens for me. And I'm sure I might walk out this game and the wicket might play away. That might be slower and hard to score. It can be a little bit slow at times. So for me, it'd just be about watching the ball and getting my routines done properly, and just forgetting about what's happening everywhere else. And if the game moves quickly at times for me, it will. But if the game doesn't, I think it's cool. We've talked about as a team, obviously putting them through more overs, which is so there's benefits to not scoring as well, and trying to make sure we can bat long periods of time and getting rewarded for that. And I think that's what's good about the team at the moment. We can sort of feed off each other's energy in terms of if there's a time to score, we'll take it. But if there's not, we can absorb and bat for long periods of time, which we showed last game, which is cool.
And more of a broader question, but how important is it as an opening pair to have a good relationship? Or does it not matter once you're out in the middle?
I think it matters sometimes in terms of enjoyment when you're meeting each other in the middle. But if you're relying on your partner too much, you're probably not in the right position, to be fair. Look, I've never had a partner I've not enjoyed batting with. So... and they've all been different. Some people like talking. Obviously, when I was playing with Kez at the Strikers, he didn't talk at all. So, you may as well be out there by yourself anyway. And I'm sure, like, when I walk out there with Heady and stuff like that, he's a lot more serious than I thought he was going to be. He talks about the game a lot more. So I think there's a lot more going on in his mind. Then Marnus walks out, complete opposite, relaxed, really talkative about just other things. So everyone's got their own little niches and ways they go about it. But... I don't think it really matters that much, to be fair. And I'm probably lucky that they're all pretty nice guys. So, I'll just try to make sure that whatever I'm saying to them help makes them better.
And in terms of England, looking ahead to the third test, have you sort of seen their plans to evolve as the series has gone on? Or how have you sort of seen their tactics to you been so far? I
haven't really seen certain tactics being employed. I think they've tried a lot of different things and some of it's been successful. So I think for them it's just... like any opening batter, they'll just try bowl really nice balls at top of the off stump. And if you do that on wickets, they might provide a little bit. It's going to be hard because they've got high quality bowlers. So for me, as time goes on, I'm sure they'll change plans, and they've shown that they'll go short ball plan. They'll go quite full to me at times and use their different lengths, which is something that I need to be a bit wary of. But at the same time, I think as an opening batter, they're just going to try to do the simple things well for long periods of time, and that's all I'm going to have to try to do as a batter too. So I think it's different if you're batting down the order because the game itself, they might have someone coming in and then they understand the wicket straight away. Where we're both playing a level playing field sort of thing. We walk out there, but as the game develops, I'm sure they'll change different tactics. And but yeah, I can't see it much different. I don't think they think it's that uncomplicated to me. I'm just a batter that probably sets up and just tries to score where I can, and then they'll just try bowl good balls to me, I think.
With those potential, their tactics, are you surprised you haven't got some more spin? Like I know you haven't batted deep into an innings when an offie might come into it, but do you expect to see a bit more of that maybe these last three tests?
Potentially on these wickets, they might spin a bit more. Again, we played on probably pace-friendly wickets, but at the same time, playing spin in Australia provides different challenges. Obviously, it might get a lot more bounce. Especially here. Especially day one, might bounce a bit more. So I'm sure they'll use spin a bit more. And as obviously they're going to have to try protect the bowlers, the quicks a bit more. So I'm sure spin will be used a lot more this game, and it's going to be hot. So, which is as an opening batter, you're probably happy about to some degree because you're not getting sniffed or can't get your shin or toe blown off. So it provides a new challenge, but at the same time, it probably provides a little bit of relief at times and change the flow of the game. So hopefully I can get into innings, and then by that time I'm facing a bit more spin and hopefully, I'm on 60 or 70 and I can, find a new way of scoring runs against the spinner. But it's not been surprising, to be fair. I think it's just the way it's planned out, really. They bowled a fair bit of it in Brisbane in the end because they had to. and that's probably where we want to get to, is have spinners coming on and using that as overs so we can sort of, keep grinding into dirt sort of thing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
What about the short ball stuff? Like, how have you? I imagine you don't get a whole heap of that in Shield cricket. How have you kind of seen that in your first 2 tests? And is it harder to do here, given it's pretty short square?
It is. For me, I've always been somewhat comfortable with it. Everyone's got their own methods with it a little bit. As you saw, how I probably set up pretty neutrally for it. I'm not too concerned about getting out pulling because it's the way I score a lot. So for me, I'm just looking to use it as a scoring option. And at times you'll probably have to absorb if they've got the fields you don't like. But for me, I'm trying to keep it pretty neutral. Where other guys, they think about it a lot differently. They think about how they can score and hit different sides of the grounds and stuff like that. So the tactic is, I think it's not as used much in Shield cricket now. The wickets are a lot greener in first class cricket, so you don't get that. You probably don't get it as much. They're just going to hit the line of length for long periods of time. But for me, it's probably just trying to keep it quite neutral and not trying to get too caught up in what they're trying to do. I feel as though that I play it quite well and I score off it. I might get out doing it, but I feel as though that I can rotate the strike, which is what I want to do facing short pitch bowling. And I think that's what most of the boys want to do. As you see, like the last game, Greeny and Smudge and the way they played it completely differently to how I would. So we probably discuss it a little bit, but at the same time, I think we've done a lot right if they're using a lot in the game, especially here, because the game will speed up a lot if they're bowling short balls here. So,
Jake, thank you so much for your time and good luck this week.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Cheers.